Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ellen Explains It All. Oh, you can't even see it. I'm trying to shake my cup. You can't even see it. In the background. I was trying to be all
Yeah.
cute.
Yeah.
If you don't know, this is the show where I ask your questions to Amanda Chin, our executive director. So before we start, I always ask a little warm-up question of Amanda. We were supposed to record on Halloween, so this question is not as relevant as it was when that was the case, but
So,
it's always spooky season in my heart, so I'm going to ask it anyway. Amanda, what is your favorite scary movie? And if you don't like scary movies, what's your favorite movie with big fall vibes?
okay. So I do like scary movies, but also, as defined by the title, they are scary. And,
Right.
I really feel like I need to be like in the right situation to watch them. So I'm going to tell a story. It's not necessarily about my
Ooh.
favorite scary movie, but it is a story about a scary movie. And it kind of like touts how thoughtful my nephew is. So anyway, it was like last year sometime, my nephew who's a teenager, I think he had gone over to like his friend's house and they all watched like A Quiet Place Part 2 possibly.
Mm.
And so like that evening he asked if I had seen the movies. I said no, I want to see them, but they're too scary and I live alone. So I can't watch them. But I'm interested. And so he just sort of like takes that all in and I can tell he's thinking about it. And then I was staying over at my sister's. And then the next day we're watching TV and he's like quiet and he's like, Aunt Amanda. I'm like, yeah. He's like, do you want to watch A Quiet Place together? And
Oh, that's cute.
I was like, yes, I would. I would like to watch it. And we watched A Quiet Place together, and it was great. I thought it was a good movie. I've now watched the whole, like every movie in the series. So,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
so cute.
Yeah.
Aw. Yeah,
Yeah.
meanwhile, growing up when I was like probably like five, I was with all of my cousins and we found my dad's VHS copy of Children of the Corn. Very bad movie. Not scary. Very
Yeah.
bad. When you're five,
Yeah.
it's a different story.
Of course.
And none of us like knew what it was. So we put in this thing. And if you don't know, this movie starts with the scariest scene in the movie. There's like a big event that happens at the start of this movie. And we are frozen and petrified. And the oldest cousin has to go turn it off because none of us can like move. And for the rest of my life, I was so scared of Children of the Corn. And my family was not as considerate about it. Some of those cousins lived on a farm with a lot of corn
Oh
and
God.
used that to their advantage growing
Yeah.
up. Anyways, I
Great.
recently rewatched it as an adult, and it is
Yeah.
that demystified Children of the
Okay.
Corn for me.
Good. Good, good,
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
yeah, not scary. Well, happy post-Halloween, everyone.
Yeah.
So, our topic today is post-show feedback and those lovely surveys that we all fill out at the end of every season. As always, giving my disclaimer that if I skip your question, it was probably a repeat or more relevant to a future episode. And in the same vein, if your question is reworded, it's for logistical reasons. No tea, no shade. Stop. Sorry, my cat is being really bad.
When you lean away, you fully disappear from the screen. It's like
Good.
magic. Yeah.
It's a magic trick.
Yeah. Woo. Where'd they go?
Alrighty. So we got some really great questions this time around.
I agree. I agree. I
Yeah.
love these questions.
Yeah, they're really good. So let's dive in.
All right.
Alrighty. First question. How is this process handled and what changes are coming?
I will occasionally be looking to the side because Mackie gave me some input on
Mm.
the answers to these questions as the program manager, and especially since a lot of the questions are about the changes. But it was Mackie didn't want to come on the show, so this is all working out the way everybody wants it to. How is the process handled? So the feedback form that most people, unless they're brand new, that most people are used to, it's a little different in that it's open all the time now. The feedback form is freely available for anybody who's currently in a program. It's located in your org on the Google Drive in your org docs folder. And there are some email reminders that will go out throughout your season in order to remind you to fill it out. But you don't have to fill it out immediately at the time that you get the email. If you had filled it out the week before, there's no need to fill it out again. So that's one change that has happened. And the other one is about the anonymity of the feedback forms. So now we have added and require, like respectfully require that everyone put their name and their email address. And that's because we have found that like a lot of times we've received feedback where we felt like we kind of have no course of action if we're not able to kind of have a
Mm.
dialogue and a conversation with the person, who's submitting the feedback. So we have added that requirement to enable an open dialogue and conversation about the participants' experiences. There's other kinds of feedback forms that have been going around. Like Mackie had sent out a community interest survey that's
Mm.
more about general programming. And I really commend Mackie for putting a few things in place, like as a direct result of that. So you might have seen like our specialty workshop prices have gone down after very careful consideration and looking at the feedback. And we're really like looking at the calendar of our programming to see when it makes the most sense to fit in some of our classes in between programs or, to not conflict with rehearsal dates.
I actually did not know about the feedback forum living forever now. Not forever. You know what I mean.
Perpetually.
Yeah, the perpetual feedback form.
Yeah.
So that's good to know. Okay, our next two questions are pretty connected. I'm just going to read both of them. Do direct responses get read by the creative team? If so, what next actions are taken? If they are not, why not? It is assumed the feedback is for them. And then the sort of connected one. How much is the feedback edited or editorialized when given to a creative team? Example, does AWT provide solutions based on the feedback, or are creative teams given the opportunity to solve for themselves?
Yeah, so the we do not give the raw data, so to speak, to the creative teams. Mackie looks at all of the feedback, looks for common themes, and delivers it in a way that is constructive and solution oriented. We don't, if you want to think about like folks who are watching this, like, what is your job? And like, does your company have customers? And what would happen if that customer like gave some feedback about the person they were on the phone and you like had to listen directly to what they had to say? Like that's probably wouldn't
Mhm.
happen. It would probably go through your manager who would, you know, talk, paraphrase and talk about the issue and like ways to work on it. So we do the same thing. Like it's not really about like this is directly what people said, but the conversations are more like, hey, what's working for you? What's not working for you? Like how can we like develop our relationship, our working relationship, and what areas are there for improvement or things to look out for. Quite frankly, also the feedback isn't necessarily something where we're like, oh, something has to change. Sometimes the feedback gives us like an indicator of where we need to communicate better and manage
Mm.
expectations. So if someone's like, I don't know, I'll use a pretty like innocent, if someone's like, the rehearsal room is too warm, like
Mhm.
I don't think we can do anything about it, but like we can be like, hey, we should really proactively tell people like dress in layers, like it gets
Yeah.
warm, like it gives us an indication of like, oh, we need to like warn people about this or manage their expectations or like, here's another example, like an actual real one. Like some music directors like to like not necessarily teach exactly the way it is in the sheet music, right?
Mm.
If you work like that, we're all for it. You just need to tell people, like, hey,
Yeah.
this is going to happen. So, like, you're going to often see me, like, not cut you off at the time when it says on the sheet music. And that's my decision. Whereas if you don't tell people, we get a lot of comments of, like, they're not following the sheet music.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Alrighty. Take a shot every time I say alrighty. I want to provide honest and, of course, respectful feedback, but I fear anything negative may impact people's perceptions of me and potentially impact future casting decisions, whether conscious or unconscious. If we make a critique of something from a show, for example, the way the music was taught, hey, you were just saying that, will the creative team know who provided that feedback?
No, even though we ask for the name, we don't pass that along to the creative team, so that stays with us, and more
Hmm.
specifically Mackie or Anya, depending on like who it is appropriate to field the feedback. I would also say like I think it could be helpful. I think this answer might apply to a few questions on the list. But like when you're giving feedback, like really focus on what your experience is and what the impact on you is. So
Hmm.
instead of it being like the music director teaches music this way and it's wrong, it could
Hmm.
like the what could be more constructive or more helpful for both us and you as the person giving the feedback is, hey, when the music is taught this way, it makes me feel anxious. It is not helpful to me. It makes it hard for me to whatever.
Hmm.
That is that is like two different ways to describe like what is happening, and one is helpful and one is not. And one is like and when you speak from a personal experience, you're not critiquing anybody, you're just saying like
Hmm.
this is the experience I'm having, and there's no way that that can ever have like any kind of negative impact on you, if you're being genuine and speaking from your own point of view and your own experience, and that truly means your own singular experience. The other thing that often doesn't help is when it's like I've heard from a lot of people that it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, we'll hear from them if they want to hear from them. Tell me what is
Yeah.
happening to you and what the impact on you is, and not what you think needs to be done in order to rectify it.
Hmm. Next question is for both of us. And spoilers, I don't have a good answer.
Me neither.
Between the two of you, you've been in the following shows over the past few years. We have a fan who's been keeping track.
I know, I love it.
SpongeBob, All Out Storytelling, Young Frankenstein, Tarzan, Sing Out, AWT Throwbacks, The Drowsy Chaperone, Something Rotten, Dance Out, Little Me, Urinetown, and 9 to 5. Tons of shows. You missed Shrek. Big fan. And
Yeah.
Dark Side of Disney. What feedback do you wish you had given? Is there any feedback that in hindsight you take back?
You want to
My
go first? Yeah.
feedback, I feel like my feedback is always really nice. Like, I very rarely am like providing critiques. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Fair enough. I don't have a good answer to this either. And also like in the most recent years, I'm in just such a different position that like it's hard for me to separate in terms of my feedback. Like I give very holistic feedback. But I will tell a story that doesn't
Mm.
answer this question, but it is about feedback. This was one of the earliest shows we did as our very first boot camp. We did Little Shop of Horrors, and it was immediately following when we did Anything Goes, and I played Reno Sweeney. So the term didn't exist then, but I was in lead jail. I didn't know it because the concept was never really talked about. But we had auditions for Little Shop. We got cast. We went to rehearsal, and I kind of like looked around me at my fellow ensemble members, and I'm like, "You were a lead in Anything Goes, and you were a lead in Anything Goes, and you were oh." I was fine with it. Like I was like, "That's
Yeah.
great." And I remember putting on my feedback form like, "Hey, so I noticed that everybody who was a lead in Anything Goes is now in the ensemble." I agree. I think that's great. I totally think that's great. I just wish I was in on it. Like, I wish
Mm,
like somebody, you could have just said so. Like it felt like it was a big secret and like,
yeah.
oh. So that really made me, I was glad I said it, and it really made me realize the value of transparency.
Hmm.
And the value of like just put out there what your intentions are, and what is the playbook that we're all following so that we all know we're on the same page. So I know that really doesn't answer the question, but I just really have a vivid memory of filling out that form and saying that.
Yeah.
I'd love to go back and try to find it and see if my memory is correct.
Yeah. That's great. And listen, transparency, that's what we're doing here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry I don't have a good answer. My feedback is it's like the most pageanty. I'm like everyone worked really hard and tried their best.
Also,
Like,
I mean, on that note, I mean, I obviously it's very helpful and useful when people say what their challenges are,
mhm,
so that we can hear about it and, address it as is appropriate. We love the positive feedback too. Like if you are really enjoying your time and enjoying your creative team members and enjoying your fellow participants, please take the time to say that. We know that the actual responses we receive skew more, for lack of a better word, negative because people who are having a great time feel like they don't need to say anything. But it is, the other thing is it's not just about evaluating creative team members. We're evaluating the whole program
mhm,
and what our practices are and the things that we want to like instill. So it isn't, a like directly about these people, but like overall we need to know what we're doing right as much as
mhm.
we need to know what needs to be worked on. So thank you for your very positive
You're welcome.
feedback.
Semi-related. This is one only you can answer though.
Okay.
What is what is the most effective feedback you've seen come through the form, and what is the funniest?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to give specific examples, but it's feedback that is delivered in good faith,
Hmm.
that is truly from like an I statement perspective and
Hmm.
saying like what your personal experience is and what the impact is on you. This will sound weird because this sounds like it's a value you want people to have, but like you don't have to give us your solutions. Like you don't have to
Mm.
like be like it should be X, Y, and Z. It could be,
Yeah.
but like we're gonna explore a lot of different ways to address what you're telling us. So if you're like it should absolutely happen that this is different next time, that's not helpful. It
Mm.
doesn't mean we're going to ignore you. It just means it's a little more work on our part to get to the heart of what the issue is. So as I was saying, the most effective in good faith from an I statement perspective. And like, it'd be nice if people remembered like there's human beings on the other end of
Mm.
this. Now, I'm not saying that when you don't do that, it's not good feedback, but it just puts a little, I think if you do that and give your feedback through that lens, it will be more effective feedback. But I will say like it has been a little disappointing at times to either read things in the feedback form or even just in the ethos where people really don't acknowledge that like these are human beings that have their own problems and like
Yeah.
have to push everything aside that's going on in their lives, whether it's personal or systemic, in order to lead a room full of 80 people who are
Hmm.
who are evaluating them nonstop. So,
Yeah.
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 Funniest feedback? I don't know. I mean, it would be something that somebody did intentionally funny, not something
Yeah.
that was serious that we were like, "Oh, wow, that's really funny." Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just like it's not that it's funny, but it's like yeah, like some of the theaters we use are like old
Mm.
and have been around since the beginning of time. And
Yeah.
like they book every week they're booked. Like
Yeah.
people are using these theaters. So like we're not too good to use these theaters. And also they also have a lot of charm. So like when I get the feedback about like the theater isn't nice, it's like, oh, okay. Like yeah, that's part of the deal with doing,
We're in New York City.
New York City amateur theater, and there's a lot of historic value to some of these spaces.
Yeah.
So it's not, I wouldn't say that it's funny. It's just sort of like, well, we can't do anything about that.
Yeah. Speaking of which, come to SpongeBob.
Yes.
How does post-show feedback play into hiring creative teams again? With the turnover in program managers, is there historical survey information available to make hiring decisions? Example, if I really enjoyed working with someone in 2024 or early 2025, what is the likelihood of them being invited back in 2026?
So there is continuity, and I do acknowledge we've had turnover in program management, starting with myself, because I used to be the
Hmm.
person in charge of that. But I shared a lot with Riva, and Riva has shared a lot with Mackie. So there have been a lot of conversations. And also, like, we meet as a team, 3 times a week, or, as many as 3 times a week. And we talk about programs for a majority of the time. And so there's just a lot of continuity in terms of like the rest of the team members that we're happy to bestow upon Mackie if she has any questions about people to hire. So yeah, Mackie has a list of people we've worked with before, access to every single former survey that has ever existed, and also just like the personal recommendations of people also on our team. And so if somebody did a good job, I mean, I can't speak to the person that this person liked. I don't know
Yeah.
who they're talking about, but if it is somebody who did a good job and really understands Afterwork Theater and what our vibe is, like the chances are pretty good that we would want to hire them again. That being said, there's a lot of people who like get really great jobs and like
Yeah.
kind of, for lack of a better term, outgrow us,
Yeah.
which I am all for. It happens a
Mhm.
lot with our music directors.
Yeah.
So we have to keep a steady stream of music directors like on the docket. But it is kind of cool to see our music directors go on and like be on Broadway,
Yeah.
be involved in some really fun projects. I would say there's no worry about like continuity and people getting lost in the cracks.
How long after forms are submitted do creative teams get the feedback, both for mid-season and end-of-season surveys? Or I guess rather, when do they see the results from the all-time
Yeah.
perpetual survey?
Yeah. The goal is like truly mid-season. So like if it is 8 week rehearsals, it would be in week 4, and then end of season is after the shows close. Now, is it challenging to schedule a lot of people? Yes. Do we, as a very small, lean team where most people are working part-time, like sometimes have trouble given the challenge of scheduling potentially 7 people for one meeting, could that
Hmm.
take a while because we have people working part-time as opposed to full-time? Absolutely.
Hmm.
So, it doesn't always perfectly happen at that time, but it is roughly mid-season, week 4, week 5, and
Hmm.
after the show's close.
Oh, I was gonna try to say the second to last penultimate. Then as I was about to say it, I realized I this was gonna happen.
I thought you were going to say Pinocchio.
The Pinocchio question. Sometimes post-show feedback is really intended for AWT corporate. How does the team balance that feedback? Is it clear when the feedback is about a systemic issue versus something for a given creative team?
Yeah, it's very clear. Also, Mackie would like us to rebrand ourselves as AWT admin. So,
Okay,
so I'm going to support that and
I
just
like it.
refer to us as AWT admin. It's clear. Also, again, I would speak from an I statement. Don't worry
Mm,
about who it's for. Say what your experience is and release yourself from trying to like direct it in a certain direction. We will figure it out. Which is to say, like maybe it is clear to you who you think it should go to, but maybe we have a different opinion. Please let
mm,
us just have that different opinion and we'll deal with it. The important thing is to tell me what your experience is so that we can work on that and we can address
mm.
it and we can come up with a solution for it.
Penultimate. Anyways, that was
You,
the
you have
Pinocchio
notes.
question.
You have notes on that word. You're like, I
Yeah.
don't know about it. I don't
I
know.
don't know.
Etymologists.
Yeah. Well, that was the Pinocchio question. This is the last question. Post-show feedback was once given to creative team members individually, but is now given to the team as a whole. Why the change? What are the benefits of each of these ways of working?
Yeah, so they used to be individual. The way I ended up doing it was individual, or the way I started doing it, individual at end of season, but as a team mid-season.
Mm,
And it was really hard to schedule. It was really hard on my time to
mm,
have like 8 different meetings
Yeah.
that often didn't need to be its own meeting. So then we consolidated it to team, like full team each. And I would say that's the reason why, like bandwidth and just so, and sometimes it is actually very helpful to talk about the program as a whole with the team as the whole, so they can also learn how to support each other. And the fact that we value transparency, like we don't need, in most cases, don't need to like silo the team members when we're actually trying to come up with a holistic experience. That being
Mm,
said, it is hard to schedule a group of people. So oftentimes the feedback sessions, both mid-season and end season, are done in chunks. Maybe it's
mm,
two different group meetings. Maybe it's a group meeting, but one person has to meet by themselves because of scheduling. And sometimes Mackie will decide I need to have separate meetings because I do want to talk individually with people. So there's no hard and fast, there's a kind of a general like way of approach it, but we're not so strict about this rule of doing it as a group that it has to be done that way
mm.
every time. In fact, it often can't.
Well, those are all of our community questions. Instead of a Mythbusters, Amanda has an announcement to make.
I do. In a month from now,
Mm.
in about 4.5 weeks, we'll be having our holiday party.
Ooh.
And it's very likely that by the time this episode is live, that tickets will have already gone on sale. And people will have seen my message that we will be having the holiday party in my neighborhood of Harlem.
Ooh.
The idea is like the thought behind it is because it's so close to my apartment. That's not really true. I mean, it is,
Because
but
it's so convenient. That's the
it's
thought.
so convenient for me and like two other people. No, that's not true. It's very convenient to get to. People like will be surprised by how
Mm.
easy it is to get to this location. I know we often meet and convene for these celebrations, like in Midtown or even like in the Village, and it's considered very central. But we are a group of people from, far reaches of the tri-state area. So I think it could be cool if this kicked off a tradition of having like a different host neighborhood every
Mm.
year for the holiday party, just like when you potentially celebrate the holidays with your family. Like sometimes you go to this aunt's house and sometimes you go to your grandma's house and sometimes you host it at home. And it's family and you do the trek because that's what you do. And this is our chosen family. So we'll do the quote unquote trek, which is really maybe like you have one transfer on a subway. So I hope folks come to my neck of the woods. There will be a lot of fun things going on, and maybe next year we'll, have the Astoria crew host in their neighborhood. Yeah,
Nice. That's, I love that idea. Also, can't believe that we're already in the holidays.
for real. Yes,
Time.
time.
Alrighty, well, that's all I have. Oh, another already. Take a shot. Um, that's all I have. Thank you, as always, for being so transparent, Amanda.
Oh, oh,
And thank you, everyone who submitted a question. These were really great, great cues.
yeah. Thank you,
Um,
Ellen. I always have fun on these, and you do a great job of, serving the community by fielding all these questions for me.
oh, you. Everyone, tell me what topics you want added to the topic list, please. Give me topic ideas. I still have a list to work through, but it's shrinking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So let's grow that list, guys.
All right.
Community effort. Cool.
Cool.
Alrighty.
Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Ellen explains it all.